Hello, this is JR Frontera here. Jenny is better. But anyway, I have been nominated for the Siblinghood of the World Blogger Award, which is where another author asks me 10 different questions, and I answer those questions and then tag 10 more authors. And I started this as a blog post, and then I realized that I was rambling and it was going to take me forever, but I did really want to answer the question, so I decided to do it as a video instead. So basically what I'm going to do is just read the questions and then kind of give my answer this way. And hopefully, maybe, it'll be a little quicker than typing it all out. Anyway, so let's get started. The first question is, when did you feel like a real writer? I love this question, basically because it made me actually think about when I felt like a real writer. And I realized that this question actually had a several part answer, or at least 3 parts, maybe 4. But essentially, the very first thing that comes to mind is one day I had not felt like writing, and I wrote anyway. And apparently previous to that day I had never done that before, which is kind of shocking because I'd been writing for about 13 years up to that point. So I guess that's a pretty good record for always wanting to write when I wrote, but the result of that also was that I wasn't writing very often because I didn't feel the muse, right? Specifically on that day, I did manage to push through not wanting to write. I did actually find the muse when I kept writing, and it was amazing to me. And I actually wrote a blog post about it, which I will link to in the comments of this video. So that's the very first thing that comes to mind, because I actually, when I did push through that resistance and actually finished the short story I was trying to finish that day, I kind of was like, holy cow, I can't believe I just did that. It is possible. That's amazing. And then I thought, wow, that must be what actual authors do all the time. So I distinctly remember that being a day when I really felt like a real writer, where I was like, I could actually do this full-time all the time, because now I know that I can write even when I don't feel like writing, and it doesn't necessarily suck either. So that was definitely the first thing that came to mind. But then I also realized that it went back even further than that. 1999, I took my first writer's workshop, actually led by the late Anne C. Crispin. She was awesome, by the way. But I loved that workshop. It was amazing. I learned so much stuff. But the main thing in that was that the things that she was saying, teaching us up at the front of the class, talking about her experiences while she was writing with some of her characters, were the same kind of things that were happening to me when I was writing my story. And I just remember sitting there in 1999 thinking, holy cow, the same things that are happening for her, this well-established, well-known author whose books I had read, were happening to me too while I was trying to write my little novel, and I was on my 2nd novel at the time. And that was the first day, I think, that I was like, I am a writer, because I'm feeling these same things that these other writers felt like. And there was a lot of people in that workshop, and they all were having the same experiences too. So that was kind of cool to realize that, it wasn't just me. I wasn't all by myself. Other people were going through these exact same experiences. That was really cool. So that kind of made me think for the first time, hey, I am onto something here. Maybe I really am a writer. Then the second one came very much many years later, where I was like, oh, I can write when I don't really feel like it. And the other thing, actually, the third thing that made me feel like a real writer was setting up writing space. This room behind me is my new writing cave. I call it a cave because it has no windows, which I thought would be bad, but actually it's kind of helpful to just lock yourself away like in a closet, basically, and write. It actually really cuts down on distractions. But Previously, in a different video, I showed you a tour of my very tiny writing desk that was in the corner of my bedroom for about 3 years, just recently upgraded to the cave. But that also really helped with identifying myself as a writer, because I actually had a dedicated space that was just for writing my books, and I had not had that up until 3 years ago. So it's kind of, you know, a gradual progress, I guess, gradual process of one thing led to another. But yes, I do consider myself a real writer now. I'm sure there's going to be more stuff to learn, there always is, but those 3 things were definitely major steps. And I think that's about it for that question. Now you see why this was taking me forever to type. Let's go to the second question. Okay, second question is, how do you overcome resistance? And I mentioned that I do have resistance in the first question. I have it a lot. I'm having it right now because I'm doing this instead of writing. But basically, the big thing is to realize that it is there and it is real, and you will always feel it. It will never go away. So you gotta learn how to deal with it. Basically, oh man, you just have to make yourself do it anyway, I guess. I have come up with some personal strategies that tend to work really well for me, to make myself write even when I don't want to. Some of those strategies I actually outlined also in a blog post, which I'll link to in the comments, but it helps a lot for me to break down the big goals into smaller steps, because then it doesn't seem so overwhelming, the resistance isn't as strong, but also it helps to have a long-term goal. So I know that if I want to accomplish this long-term goal, then I have to do these smaller steps to get there, or that long-term goal's never going to happen. So it's kind of a determination issue, I guess. How badly do you want that long-term goal? If you don't want it very badly, it's probably going to be easy to give in to that resistance, because there's always something, you know, more fun you could be doing when you don't feel like writing. But if you really want that long-term goal, then you'll find ways around your resistance, which is what has happened to me. So almost always I can get past it. If it's just really, really, really bad day, nothing's working, then I will just go ahead and take a day off. But I always limit it to 1 day, because 1 day turns into 2, 2 turns into 3, 3 turns into a week turns into a month. It's really, really, really easy to do that. So if you do take a day off, then make sure you get right back at it the next day. Don't let yourself keep putting it off. That's why so many writers say write every day. There's a reason for that. The longer you go without writing, the harder it is to start back up. The stronger the resistance is going to be. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but it's so true. Happens to me all the time. So I really try to at least do something every day, even if it's not actively writing, you know, a little bit of editing, a little bit of research, a little bit of rereading what I wrote the day before, something to keep your head in your current project. Question 3. What advice would you give yourself as a wannabe writer? Firstly, I would say stop calling yourself a wannabe. Wannabe and aspiring are both terrible words. Don't use them. It doesn't matter if you're not published. If you really have a problem calling yourself a writer or an author before you're published, say pre-published author. Basically, whatever you label yourself is what you're going to grow into. So keep calling yourself a wannabe, you're going to be a wannabe. Keep calling yourself aspiring, you're always going to be aspiring. Don't aspire, just do it. Just write. Write. Network, go to conferences, go to workshops, improve your craft, meet people. That's where I found the biggest boost for motivation. Also just learned so much amazing things from workshops and other writers and professional authors, and just you can't just sit at your house and write in a bubble. You got to get out there and learn new things, make connections. Yes, and you also can't call yourself wannabe or aspiring forever. So if you're a wannabe, stop being a wannabe, just be a writer. That's my advice. Question 4, do you prefer writing or editing? I do not like this question. This question is very hard for me. I guess it's easy for some people, but it's hard for me because weirdly, I actually enjoy editing, even though it seems like it takes forever. But then writing the rough draft also seems to take forever. So I feel like it's not really a win-win either way for me. I am definitely one of the slower writers in my writing group. There's 7 of us, and I think I might be the slowest, if not the second slowest person of the 7 as far as writing and editing goes. It has taken me a while to turn off the inner editor during my rough draft. I'm much better at it. NaNoWriMo helps fix that, but it still is something that I have to actively turn off when I'm writing the rough draft. The rough draft for me is a little frustrating because you don't always know what's next. So kind of fumble around trying to figure out what direction the story is going. You may not know your characters all the way. But then in the editing phase, you know your characters really well. The story is all complete. It's all there. You have something tangible to work with, which is why I like the editing process. But then again, writing is so fun sometimes because you get to discover your characters. You get to discover your story. So, you know, it's kind of a toss-up. I like them both for different reasons, and I don't like them both for different reasons. So I guess maybe I like both? I don't know. I guess that's not really an answer, but that's the best I got. What part of the writing process do you struggle with most? That's a really good question. Wow, I'm not sure. I mean, kind of all of it. I don't know. I don't know if there's a specific part that's harder than others. Like I mentioned in the previous question, sometimes rough drafts are a bit annoying for me because I don't know the direction. I'm not very good at pantsing. I don't like not knowing what's going to happen next. I like to have a vague idea at least of where I'm going. So going from point A to point C with no point B for me is stressful. And I do make myself keep writing because pretty much every single time the characters will fill me in on, you know, point B right before we get there, and then I'm like, oh, that's brilliant, but I can't get to that point unless I force myself to keep writing through the uncertainty, and that is pretty difficult for me. So I'd say that's probably the most difficult part at this point anyway. And I think since this video is getting a little bit long because I blabbed just like I said I would, I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. That was the first 5 questions, and I'm going to do the second 5 questions in a part 2 so you guys aren't bored to tears. Alright, so anyway, I will see you again next time.